Hey everybody, how you doing? Mr. Rogue Shark here, back with another video. And today we're going to talk about or discuss a couple of alternate methods of communication during a SHTF world. Um, for those of you who had family that lived in New York City during 9/11, you may recall what a challenge it was to get through on the telephone lines. Um, Personally, I reached out to a couple of people I knew in that area, and I just couldn't get through for the life of me. On a cell phone, landline, just wasn't happening. And it really got me to thinking, what alternate sources are out there for us as preppers or survivalists that may be viable when we can't communicate via normal means, like our telephones or even the internet, email or anything like that. And what I came up with are two pretty standard options that I think most people could get into with a low overhead, minimal expense, and that is a CB radio and a ham radio, or known as an amateur radio. Looking at the CB radio first, it's really basic, just a Realtek Radioshack CB radio, off the wall. I got this at a pawn shop for around $7 or $8 and some odd change. You plug in the antenna in the back, and it's got a car adapter or cigarette lighter. Plug that right in, you're good to go. Range-wise, depending upon the antenna you're using, you're liable to get between 10 to, some cases 50 miles. I personally haven't gotten 50 miles off a CB radio. I've only gotten about 10, and that's in optimal conditions. But definitely a good source of communication to have for not only communicating with maybe somebody in your neighborhood, but also monitoring communications as well. A lot of guys walk around with handheld CB radios, and depending upon your antenna that you're utilizing with your CB, you will be able to pick them up. Moving on over to the second option, and one of my personal favorites, and that is a ham radio. Okay, what you're looking at is something called a Baofeng handheld dual band ham radio. It's got an aftermarket antenna on there that's about 22 to 24 inches. I think maybe I invested $20 in that, and it's dual band, meaning it allows me to receive UHF and VHF frequencies. If you're going to get a ham radio, I highly recommend going with a dual band radio, especially if you live in any kind of semi-urban environment. Now go ahead and fire it up for you to give you an idea what you're looking at. That's an ultra high frequency in the 400 plus range, and the very high frequency to switch it over. And what you're hearing right now is the weather off of 162.55. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. You can communicate on these two-way. It's got a push-to-talk feature. Just hold it in like a walkie-talkie and see what you have to say. The scanning on this thing is manual. You have to push that little button up there, or the little knob there, and you turn it either high or low, and it goes through the channels one by one. That can be a pain in the ass, and you can probably spend a considerable more amount of money on your ham radio and get one that does the scanning automatically, or you punch in the frequencies. I'll probably upgrade here this year or next year and look at getting maybe a base station or a better handheld. This is my first and only ham radio, something I picked up off of eBay actually for around $60, I think. And majority of that was spent on shipping. These are very expensive radios, but because they come from, I think, China, you're going to pay a little bit more for shipping. So if you want to get into this and you want to explore it for yourself, I do recommend it. If you've got an extra $70 laying around that you can throw at it, then definitely get one and pick it up. I've heard everything from local repeaters to cab companies, tow truck guys, security guards at hotels. Just invaluable, definitely worth the money. And when I do upgrade, I'll do a video on that as well. But yeah, these two options right here though, really handy for communications during shit hits the fan. And just look them over, think about it. CB radio, real easy to pick up, real easy to use. Ham radio may require some fooling around with a little bit to get used to the frequencies, to get yourself adjusted to the operations of the radio, but overall fairly simple. One thing to remember about the biggest difference between both of these radios is your CB radio is what's known as citizens band, Anybody can pick this up and use it. Male, female, young, old, doesn't matter. On the ham radio, on the other hand, it does require you to be licensed by the FCC. And you can take a test, think about 15 or 30 questions, and get your basic technician's license, and you're able to broadcast on here. You do not have to have a license to buy one. You don't need a license to own one. However, in order to transmit or broadcast, as they say, you have to have a license. If you don't have one, they consider you a pirate. And a lot of these guys, for whatever reason, that are on the ham, so they really, really monitor and take it serious. So just be aware. If you are going to be a pirate and operate without one, without a license, be aware there are fines out there that can cost you upwards of $10,000, confiscation of your equipment, and I think in some cases even jail time. Research it for yourself, make your own decisions, of course. I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. Personally, I'm not licensed on my ham radio. I don't transmit off of it though. As of right now, I just use it simply for a receiver and to hear what's going on. If shit did hit the fan, trust me, I'm not going to worry about being licensed or not. I'm going to communicate with whomever. However, that's all there is to it. If you got any questions or anything, any comments, if you know about better radios I might want to look into, or make a suggestion to me as far as CB wise, I am really open to hearing it. My ultimate goal is to have the communication set up here on the base side of things at my home, to where I'd have either a base station CB like this and maybe a couple of different ham radios going along with some police scanners and things like that, in order to monitor communications and see how the rest of the world's doing during a chase the fan situation. Mr. Rogue Shark here. Stay focused, stay sharp.